Welcome back to another episode of Sidebar Social. I'm Jennifer Grinke.
And I'm Dana Stewart. Hello, everyone. How are you today, Jen?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, we survived the storms last night.
We did.
Yeah.
It was intense.
It was very intense.
Yeah.
Had umbrellas in the pool, house alarm going off.
Yeah.
Your alarm went off too?
Yeah, my alarm went off.
Yeah. So I'm excited about our guest today.
Yeah, me too.
We have a good friend of ours who's on the show. His name's Stuart Brown. He's a fellow attorney and an amazing mediator.
Yes.
You ever thought about being a mediator?
Okay, so I've never thought about it as an attorney, but I do want to tell you about elementary school when I was a conflict mediator.
What? Okay. Conflict mediator?
Yeah, so I had a yellow vest, and it had like a C and an M for conflict mediator.
Nerd alert.
Yeah, and I had a binder.
Okay.
And I'd walk around at recess, and I would help solve problems.
What kind of problems were you solving?
You know, like a tetherball dispute or like kickball.
Okay, very serious things.
Yeah, very serious issues. And
And-
so I feel like I helped a lot of first graders. And so maybe I could be useful in mediation.
Did you undergo training to be a conflict mediator?
Yeah, I went through a lot of training.
What was that training comprised of? Drinking your high C and eating snacks?
I mean, it's kind of the same thing you do in mediation, right? Like you have to sit there, listen to the person's problem, and then you use a lot of I statements.
As opposed to,
You.
oh yeah,
You know.
my therapist taught me about that.
Yeah.
All right, so you told your story before about the book that your mom kept where you
Yes.
talked about wanting to be a McDonald's worker.
Yes.
And then
Happy
in
Meals.
fourth grade, it was lawyer.
Lawyer. Mm-hmm.
Did your work as a first grade conflict resolution specialist, did that maybe set you down the path of law even before fourth grade?
Yeah, I don't know, because I think I was a sixth grader at the time. So basically when I made that goal in fourth grade, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm like, I'm going to work towards that. So I put that vest on and I just got out there and I just hit the ground running.
Does your mom have a picture of this vest with you wearing it?
I bet she does.
I'm going to text her.
And we walked around in teams. So it was like two of us with the clipboard.
Oh my gosh, I love
It was good.
Okay, so should we jump into it with Stu?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, good morning, Stu. How are you?
Good morning, friends. I'm doing well.
Thank you for coming on the show today.
You're very welcome. Well, thank you for the invite. It's an honor to be asked to come on here and talk about something that I do. Now, I didn't learn to do what I do in first grade. I did learn how to do it a little later in life, but here I am.
You had some training?
I've had a little bit of training over the years, yes.
Probably better training than I had. Yeah.
Probably.
Have you helped anybody resolve a tetherball problem? That's the
Not,
real question.
Not yet, but that is my goal in life now.
We're going to try to bring you a client that has a tetherball dispute, okay? How long have you been doing mediation work?
Mediation exclusively for about 4 or 5 years. Prior to that, I was litigation lawyer, just like you guys, beating people up in courtrooms for a couple decades, and then just happened to fall into mediation.
It's kind of crazy because 4 or 5 years, I mean, I know we mediate with you all the time, but I feel like you have become like the top mediator in the area. I feel like, well, we can't even get into mediate.
We can't
with
even
you.
get in.
Yeah, it's like a 6-month waiting list.
It is a good problem to have
Yeah.
that my mediation schedule is booked up very far in advance. But I appreciate the what you're saying about me being the best mediator, but there are a lot of other really good mediators out there. The key is you just have to learn how to listen to be a mediator, as opposed to a trial lawyer. It's very different, right? A trial lawyer, you're in court, you're directing the trial, you're saying you're in charge. And as a mediator, I am not in charge. All I am doing is listening and asking questions, as opposed to telling a court what I want to have happen.
What would you say the biggest difference, just for the people at home that are listening to this, between going to court and going to mediation?
In mediation, the client is completely in control, to where at the courthouse, we could have an entire trial, as you guys know, and you walk out and your client will ask you what just happened. They are in zero control. And I think that's the biggest difference. Plus, they're actually being heard in mediation by me, by their own lawyer, as opposed to the courthouse where the judge is just kind of picking up on little things left and right and probably making a fairly standard ruling.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of clients and just the general public's confused about mediation, probably because of Wedding Crashers.
Yes.
So could
Great
you kind
movie.
of tell us just like a little bit about, how the process works?
Sure. We're not sitting in the same room together. That's number
Dang
one.
it.
Dang.
Right. Yeah. The husband and wife, mother and father will be in separate rooms, and generally they're not going to see each other all day long.
Is Vince Vaughn going to be there?
He can be, but
Okay.
you have to pay extra for that.
Yeah, that's not free.
And then what I do is much more than just take offers back and forth between rooms. I really understand the perspective of mom or wife, and then I really go and understand the perspective of dad, husband. And that tells me where the disagreements are, and then we can focus in on those disagreements.
What prep work do you do, if any, prior to a mediation?
Generally, the lawyers, especially the good ones like y'all, will send me information in advance. For example, you'll send me the pleadings, specifically temporary orders, if there are, and you will write me a letter. Y'all write me fabulous letters, probably some of the best letters I get from any lawyers in the metropolis.
I was an English minor, so.
That makes
He loves commas.
it makes sense.
Loves them.
So those letters are invaluable to me because it's a way for you to tell me more than just what the pleadings is going to tell me. It tells me, hey, this is who my client is. This is what he or she is wanting. This is what's important to him or her. This is not the number one thing that's very important. And so use this information to go help my client get what they want.
What's the difference between what you do and what a judge does in the courtroom?
Fabulous question. I get asked that by the clients almost every day. The difference is the judge tells them what they're going to do with their property and tells them what they're going to do with their children. What I do is figure out what each side wants, figure out common ground, and then award it to both of them on a piece of paper without telling them this is what's going to happen. It's their choice.
Okay, so mediation, you're saying clients have more control than going to court. Mm-hmm. Why do you think it is that some people still opt to go to court then?
Emotions, especially in the family law context. If you are not ready emotionally to make a business decision, then mediation may not be successful. The people that want their quote unquote day in court that you're saying are still emotionally involved, still trying to punish the other party, are not ready to be done with the marriage. And they don't realize that their day in court is going to cost them tens of thousands of dollars. And about 99% of the time, what I end up having on the table for them at mediation is probably better than what they're actually going to get at the courthouse.
Some people, though, I feel like they don't realize that till it's too late. You know, they don't take the deal in mediation. They want to go have that day in court. And then I've seen that before with clients where they're like, maybe that was a mistake.
Unfortunately, that does happen. I keep track on the cases that don't settle and go to trial and see what happens because I'm just as curious as anybody else as to what happens. And routinely, I see my notes and what was on the table was so far superior than what the court actually gave them. And they were warned and their lawyers warned them. But again, you can't agree when you're fighting over principle. Principle is very expensive. Principle is emotions, and that's what the courthouse is for. If you want realistic outcomes and probably better than what you can get at the courthouse, mediation is the only way to go.
So just to clarify, Stu, you're not the judge. You're not making any decisions. You're just helping the clients facilitate an agreement if there is an agreement to be made. Is that right?
That's exactly right. I don't have any power like a judge does to tell them what they're going to do. But because I listen to both sides, I generally can get something on the table that is, I can live with that, is what they would say. That's unfortunately usually better than if they actually go to trial and get told what they're going to do.
Wait, you don't have a robe or a gavel?
Or
I
white
do.
hair? Oh, wait, you do have white hair?
I do. I just leave it in the other room, and I put it on only when I'm typing.
Okay.
Good, good. I always wonder, where have they been? What are they doing? What are those mediators doing? Are they having a sandwich? Are they watching TV? Are they gone missing for a while?
But see, that's where I like the ones where I'm the amicus, and I've had those with you where I don't represent, either parent. I'm representing or helping with the kids. So then I get to follow you around. I get a sneak peek at what you do all day.
So
Yeah.
what's
Yes.
he doing?
He's working.
Board games?
Yeah, playing board games. Yeah, putting that robe and the gavel and his powdered wig on, and pontificating.
Yes. Smaller words for me, though. I'm just a lawyer. Okay. But that is a question that I get a lot of the times, too. Where have you been? What have you been doing? And they don't realize that my job is nonstop, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours. Dana, I know both of us have worked all the way from 9 to 3 a.m. in the
Yes.
morning before to resolve cases. So it can take time, but it's nonstop.
Yeah. And you talked about somebody needs to be emotionally ready for the mediation. What do you do if you notice like halfway through one of the sides is not in that position to make those type of decisions?
I can pull the lawyers out into a separate room and let them know what I'm seeing in both rooms, because usually it's more than just one party that's not quite ready to make a business decision. If there's still a lot of fighting and stuff that goes on in the rooms themselves, I can, like I said, I can pull the lawyers out, have a chat with them and go, maybe realistically, y'all need to go let them fight for another few months and then come back when they're ready to actually resolve their case.
So generally speaking, how long would you say the average mediation takes? And what would be your longest mediation that you can remember?
The average mediation is a full day. We get started around 9 and we typically finish around 5 or 6. There are no lunch breaks. Of course, I buy your lunch and y'all are eating while I'm in the other room, but there's no lunch breaks. There's no pauses or anything. It's straight through. The longest one for me was till 3:30 in the morning. I will stay as long as the people want to stay. Now, if they're ever ready to go and reset, that's great. But if they want to stay and keep working on agreements, I will stay for as long as they want to.
And by reset, you mean maybe we pause for the moment and call it a day, come back a different day to try to finish the mediation?
Yes, but there is a downside to doing that.
What's that?
A lot of the times, if we get real close, but we're not quite there, and then we put a pause on things, one side the next day will back off and say, you know what, never mind. I'm not doing that. I'm going to fight some more.
They talk to their friends and their family. They get in their ear and then,
Yes, their friends and Google lawyers tell them, well, that didn't happen in my divorce.
Right.
And now suddenly you're back in litigation square one.
So how tiring is it for you? You kind of just touched on this where, we get to take a break and away. You go to the other room. We're with our client. We may, talk with them a little bit, but you have to go from one room to the next all day long. How exhausting is that?
You know how when you get involved in something, you forget about time flies and you're invested in it? I am invested in every single mediation that I do, just like you're invested in your clients. And so time goes by really fast for me. Now, when it's over, it does take me a while to shut my mind down and get ready for the next day. But I don't have a sense of being tired or anything during the course of the day. Plus, I have tremendous patience, as you might imagine.
Yes.
And so I think that does help.
You know what else helps?
Vodka?
The Twinkies and the Ho-Hos and the Slim Jims that he always has available.
Yeah.
There's no calories on mediation days. And so I have just awful snacks that are really tasty, though.
He always offers them to me.
I do.
Oh my gosh, have you eaten one?
I have not. No offense.
No, he brings his own cooler with his own healthy
we go.
food.
Yeah.
He won't even let me buy him a salad from somewhere
His
for
8
lunch.
Yeah, 7
Yes.
meals.
7. I can't get it right.
Yeah. She always makes fun of me for that cooler. So I feel like your mediation style is unique. I feel like you settle the majority of what we have to deal with. And even on really high complex issues, you're able to typically get resolution. What is your technique for building rapport with the clients and then helping understand what's important to them?
I have about 30 seconds the first time I meet them to build that rapport that I'm going to have to work under for the next full day. How I do that is I simply listen. The most important thing that I do in the morning is ask them to essentially tell me their story. And by them telling me their story, their complaints, their issues and everything, I'm learning so much more about them than not just the legal aspect of the case.
Yeah.
And that allows me to figure out kind of who these people are, along with the letters that y'all specifically send me. And then I can work within that. Like if I find out someone is a sports family, I can work within that. If I find out they're an artistic, a theater family, I can work within that. So it's that very first story in the morning that I have to figure out a way to understand who these people are and then work within their boundaries.
How do you call out BS with your interview style?
That's complicated because I can't, right? I can't, if someone's telling me something that I know they're just sitting there lying through their teeth, I can't call them out necessarily because that puts them on the defensive. And so what I have to do is ask them the questions that are a little open-ended so they will realize shortly after they answer that, oh, he knows, or oh, I need to switch this, or oh, something I'm saying does not make sense. And then don't bust them for it. They'll know.
Yeah, because you're not the judge, like you said.
That's right. And I'm not cross-examining anybody.
Right. So what are things that clients can do prior to mediation to help get a better chance of resolution during the mediation?
Meet with your lawyer before coming to mediation and go through what you're trying to accomplish. Then the lawyer can send me that information. I'm going to switch gears on that question, though, and tell you what I don't need.
Perfect.
All right?
Probably better. Okay,
All
let's
right.
go.
When a client, not the lawyer, but when the client comes in with boxes and boxes of documents and information, or has literally 2 or 3 computers lined up in front of them, and every time I try to talk to them, they go to look for a document or they try to find something on the computer, that does not help me. I need to talk to the client and understand their position. They don't need to tell me the legal situation. They don't have to prove anything to me. So if they just are calm and let their lawyer do the thing, all they need to do is tell me their story and we'll get what they want.
Yeah, and I think too, a lot of times the clients get confused with the lawyer, with our role in the mediation. Like they're like, why aren't you arguing with the mediator? Why aren't you pleading our case to the mediator? So can you kind of talk about like what is our role and how do we best support you in the mediation to get a resolution?
Yes, your role is the same in mediation as in court, but with differences. It's the same that you're still representing and fighting, quote unquote, for your client. The difference is people see a whole lot more on TV of courtroom drama where you're really fighting for them. To where mediation, you're not, quote unquote, fighting for them. You're making sure that what they want is actually happening. And that is a different situation with a mediation than with a trial. But your role is still the same. You have every incentive in the world to make a client happy. And so you want them to get as many things as they want, and you just do it a different way in mediation than you do in trial.
And have you had mediations where you felt like there was not communication between the client and the attorney about the goals or the concerns heading into the mediation?
Unfortunately, I do come across lawyers. I will tell you, in North Texas, not that much. We have some exceptional lawyers up in our counties. But there are a few times when the client and the lawyer walk in and shake hands and say, hey, nice to meet you.
Wow.
And I know right then that I've got a struggle
Yeah.
moving forward because they have no idea what is happening. So
That sounds like what goes on in the criminal courthouse when they're out in the hallway calling their name, Jane Doe. Oh, good to meet you. Let's go to court. Yeah.
it is very similar to that.
Yeah.
Yes. Something that you wouldn't even fathom happening happens.
Follow us and join the conversation on Instagram and YouTube at Sidebar Social.
All right, Stu, let's talk about expectations,
Okay.
kind of managing those, right? So I feel like you've stressed the importance of the client meeting with the attorney ahead of time to talk about goals and expectations. Can you describe a little bit the relationship between you and the attorney when it comes to helping manage expectations with the client during the mediation process?
Yes, it's always best if I know the lawyers, and I know most of the lawyers very well. I know y'all's personalities as well. So
I'm the fun one.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And since I know the client is working with y'all, I know the kind of conversations y'all have had even leading in to the mediation. So I have an idea of probably how you guys have prepared the client's expectations. And I know that you guys have prepared them as follows, right? They are not going to walk out of mediation going, woohoo, I got every single thing I wanted today. They know they're going to walk out of mediation going, I got an awful lot of what I wanted, and I really got my most important thing that I wanted, so I can live with giving up on the other stuff. To where at trial, as you know, no one walks out going woohoo, or usually even walking out going, I got anything that I
Right.
wanted.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Most people aren't jumping for joy after trial.
No.
Yeah. And do you believe that if people are able to come to resolution at mediation on a family law matter, that it lends itself to having better co-parenting relationships down the road versus going to trial?
No question. Let's take kids, for example. If you go to trial, what's your job? To destroy the other parent on the stand, right?
Yeah.
You don't come back and co-parent after getting destroyed in public on the stand. To where in mediation, if they reach an agreement as to what's in the best interest of their kids, it literally can change the child's life.
Yeah. And let's give the audience a little bit of insight about mediation itself. So what should they be wearing? You know, do they have to put on a suit? Right. Good question.
Yeah.
See, yeah, I came prepared. Give some insight from your perspective.
No, do not wear a suit. This is an informal process. We are not in court. I want you to wear something that you are most comfortable in. If that is yoga pants and a sweatshirt, great. I want her to wear yoga pants and a sweatshirt.
But
If
are there
it's-
restrictions on the other end? Can they go too far?
Unfortunately, yes. So fairly recently, I was doing a mediation via Zoom. And when we opened the Zoom and I brought the gentleman into the conference room Zoom, he was, I can't even, he was laying back on a bed and the
Okay.
camera was like at the very front of the room.
Tell me more.
And he had his arm up kind of behind his head. He was lounging on
Okay.
the bed
Putting out the vibe.
in a Speedo, a tiny little Speedo.
God. What color was it?
I don't know. I don't remember. And unfortunately, I think I do remember. I think it was like blue and red,
Oh my,
actually.
because it'd be ingrained in my, I would never be able to unsee that.
And so that was shocking. And I held it together for a minute. And then he was comfortable. None of us were. And so I didn't ask him to change.
Did the mediation proceed
We
with him
did.
rocking
And
the
we
Speedo?
settled that case.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay,
Maybe
so-
he had to swim after.
Okay, so be comfortable, but not too comfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
To learn more about Grinke Stewart Family Law, visit GrinkeStewartLaw.com.
To connect with today's guest, Stuart Brown, you can follow him on Instagram at Richardson Brown Law TX. And check out the firm's website, richardsonbrownlaw.com.
Can you talk a little bit about how, if there is an agreement reached, what does that look like? What do we sign? Kind of get into that.
Okay. So if you go to court and you have a hearing or a trial, you get an order, right? I don't have the power to sign an order like a judge does. But what I give you is a mediated settlement agreement. And it is a summary of what the parties agreed to that day. There's no takey-backies. It's binding. I mean, that's the whole point of mediation, right?
Meaning once they sign it, that's it.
It's set in stone. So then what you guys do after that is turn that mediated settlement agreement into a final order. But after the mediation, that's just formalities. The clients, y'all are done the day of mediation.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's I think we see it a lot. There's a big relief for the clients going through it, knowing that they finally have resolution to whatever the dispute was.
I routinely hear at the very end of a mediation, them both say, I am going to get the best sleep I have had in months tonight.
Do you ever feel like you're a therapist during the mediation?
Oh, definitely. I think that's actually a big part of my job is listening and working through problems. And then just
True.
putting a little legal tinge to it.
Yeah.
I like that. A little tinge.
A little tinge.
There you go.
Okay, Stu. At the end of each episode, we do something called closing arguments. So today, Dana and I are husband and wife, and we both want the same thing. We both want our dog, Fifi.
I love
And-
Fifi.
Fifi is a Maltese. She's 4 pounds. And so we're going to argue over it, and you get to decide who wins.
So put that robe and gavel on. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. You want to go first?
No, I want to see what you have to say
Okay.
about Fifi.
Stu,
The
or
4-pound
Your
Maltese.
Honor, I believe that I should be able to take Fifi in this divorce. First of all, I picked her out. I found her on the little roadside. I have raised it. I took it to classes. We paid a lot of money for the classes. And as soon as we got Fifi home, Jen refused to actually follow the training for the dog. And we had to send it back to training again. She won't let it sleep on the
Is this causing
bed.
arguments, or is this about my real dog?
It's kind of a combo. Yeah. I'm hitting home here, Stu.
Yes, you are.
So I feel much more connected to the dog. And I know that she would be much happier with me. So I would like to take her.
I think that I should have the dog because my grandma always loved Malteses, and she died, and her last wish was that I should have
Oh, you're
a
playing the
Maltese
grandma
that's 4 pounds in white. And so it's true, Dana did go out into the streets and adopt this dog for me. But then he gifted it to me when my grandma died. And so now it's a gift to me, and it's very sentimental. And I just think it makes more sense if I have the dog.
Okay. And so I get to rule on this?
How do you handle this, Mr. Mediator Judge?
All right. So I have some questions.
Okay.
All right. So you're keeping the marital home, correct? And you're moving
Mansion.
out. You're moving into the apartment. Is that
Yeah.
right?
So exciting.
All right. And the kids are staying primarily in the marital home with you, and you're doing this standard possession like
Correct.
most fathers do, right?
Correct.
All right. Are the kids connected to the dog?
They love Fifi.
Has the dog lived his
They put bows in her hair.
Fifi, her
Yeah.
whole 4-pound life in the house?
Yes.
All right. Do you really, Dad, want to take Fifi away from your sweet baby girls who have had this dog the whole time?
That's hard to answer.
All right. What if sweet baby Fifi were able to come with the girls occasionally on your weekends to spend some time with you? If we could do something like that, do you think the dog could stay primarily over at her regular home?
Do you think you could put into the agreement that she'll keep up with the dog's training?
I do. I think Mom will probably agree to that.
I could probably go for that then.
Okay. Then that's what we're going to do. Congratulations. Guess what? Dad told me in the other room that he thinks you are correct. And
Yay.
he does love the children enough for the dog to stay there with them. So, you know what? Let's give credit where credit is due. Let's give Dad credit for making the right decision, right?
Way to go, Dad. You
There
did
you
one
go.
thing
Way
right.
to go, Dad.
One thing right.
There you go.
Perfect. Well, Stu, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on.
you, Stu.
And thanks for all the great work you do on the cases that we have. You're a phenomenal mediator. I mean, I guess we should give a shout out to your practice in general. So you have other attorneys. So it's not just mediations, right? So
Correct.
you handle family law matters.
Well, I don't anymore.
Not you. I meant the firm. I'm sorry.
But we do. The firm
yeah.
does. Family law, trust and estates, and some special needs as well.
Perfect. So if people want to find you, how do they find you?
RichardsonBrownLaw.com.
Excellent. All right, everybody. Thank you. And I'll see you next time on Sidebar Social.
Thank
Bye.
you, guys.
Thank you.